roughly like this. And the start time of either wind damage or a possible tornado, you see it right there for Blossvale. Lee, we've mentioned those already. Lake Delta, a very popular spot any time of the year, and especially during the summer where it's really hot and you want to be by a lake. You do not want to be outside, obviously, during a thunderstorm anyway. And just to give you a broader look at how the entire line looks, the severe weather threat for most areas west of 81 and Route 11 is nearly over because all these storms are basically now cleared just about of the 81 corridor. There's one down here by Tully, but other than that, back here, there's not going to be there will not be a resurgence of severe storms, okay? So unlike the last event where we had more storms and possibilities of severe weather, this is a basically one and done type of situation. If you're in the Vienna area, Lee Center, Blossvale, those places, remember to do the things we've been telling other people to do. Basement is best if you don't have a basement, or you're in a mobile home. If you're in a mobile home, you do not want to be in that because that will be tossed. You got to try to find a structure that has a foundation. Even if it doesn't have a basement, go to the lowest level, stay away from windows, and try to put as many walls between you and the outside world as possible, because those walls will actually protect you if they start caving in, if you've got more walls between you and the outside weather damage. If you've got a cell phone, bring it along with you. Maybe bring make sure your power banks are with you, so in case, now I know cell tower can go down, but as soon as that comes back, you'll have an opportunity. A radio is a good idea to get information immediately, especially if it's battery powered, of course. And you want to cover your neck and head, and also make sure you're wearing sandals, sneakers, something like that. God forbid you have damage, whether it's straight line wind damage or tornadic wind damage that could cause broken glass. There could be wires down. You don't want to be stepping on anything that could cause further injury to yourself. And even if you weren't injured, even if there was just one tree down and it broke a window and you step on the window, now you got big problems. A severe thunderstorm watch is technically in effect until 6 o'clock for everybody, but I'm thinking once this line of storms clears the area, the threat for severe weather, while not almost zero, is pretty close. Here's a recap of all the warnings that are in effect. Tornado warning in effect for that small portion of northern and western Oneida County, but a large portion of central New York is still under the gun with severe thunderstorm warnings, another 12 to 27 minutes. There's the storm that still has the tornado warning in effect, and you see all these areas right here that have it. So now this doesn't look like much. It looks like just a big mush of red. When I put the velocity scans on, you can see a little bit better that you've got at least a little bit. It's not as strong as it was maybe 10 minutes ago, but it's strong enough where it's still spinning around. Looking at the radar, to me, it's not as strong as it was before. That's good. But whatever is over there is going to be crossing the Route 69 corridor between Lee and Taberg, and then eventually towards Lee Center and Ansville, the southeastern part. This particular storm appears to not be heading to Rome itself. However, I want to make sure to bring the whole view a little further south, because there's still this other storm that we had been pounding the table about, because you see all this pink here? I'm just going to take a look right now with a different vantage point, and there's still winds of at least 50 miles per hour inside that storm. Just looking at a different viewpoint, it's possibly even as high as 70 to 75 miles per hour. It's probably not 75 because it's way up in the clouds that's seeing that wind, but still likely some wind damage heading right now towards the Westmoreland, Kirkland area. We just mentioned those before. Next up would be New Hartford, the Utica area, and Deerfield, and eventually Holland Patton. And from what I am seeing, this little edge, this northern part, is trying to make its way towards Rome. I know we do get into some Rome viewership here, so even though the worst part of the storm is to your south, even just a little ramp up would put the city of Rome in the path of not a tornado, but some very strong winds. I will let you know that I am seeing the beginnings of maybe a couplet just west of Rome. It's not super strong yet, but it bears watching, as these storms have had a history of spinning up brief tornadoes, or certainly something that's, let's say, eyebrow raising. And that's actually one that, as I'm live on the air, is a little interesting heading towards Rome. So let's just be weather aware. You do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Rome, but you notice that the radar was trying to indicate rotation before as it was moving this way. So that's why we've got to be weather aware, and I brought this up even though it was out ahead of that. It's kind of in between the two systems. I'm giving you a little early warning here. Get inside and pretend it's a tornado. Make this as a good practice run for Rome. Just a good practice run. You don't want to be outside anyway. What are you going to miss? Go down to the basement, bring your phone, watch me on the air, or do whatever you want. Do a crossword puzzle. It doesn't matter to me. I would just make sure you're safe. Just treat it as a possibility that might turn to a tornado either in the Rome-Griffiths Air Force Base area or maybe Floyd and Holland-Patton. It's possible. It's a heads up, a Hall heads up, just in case that goes tornadic. Right now, it's still a regular severe thunderstorm warning, which of course can create just as much damage as a low-end tornado. So let's reset. Let's go back and cover the entire area with those warnings for you so you can see who's got what and what the updates are. Not too much of an update other than I'm not sure if the Shenango County one was in it last time because I've been really focusing in on most of central New York. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Onondaga and Madison County till 3:45. Lewis County, I'd have to look because I'm not seeing that. I think it's probably about the same time period, 3:45, 4 o'clock. And still the tornado warning in effect for another 8 minutes for that area that we just mentioned. It's this one right here, this red polygon that you see right there. And just showing you the velocity, it's still showing a little bit of twist. But again, I'm also watching this twist right here entering the Rome area, just in case, just in case. You already have a severe thunderstorm warning anyway. And if you ever look at these severe thunderstorm warnings, they sometimes include the tag tornado possible. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but either way, it's this whole kind of set of storms. It actually winds up pretty close to what moved across Onondaga County. If you remember, there were two separate things. There was this one that started around Baldwinsville-ish, and then kind of went its way across Euclid and Clay and Cicero, and then it went across to the Northern Boulevard area. It went across Cicero Swamp. It went across Bridgeport and Lakeport. That's the leftovers of that storm here. This one was the one that started as an individual cell over the Fayetteville-Manlius area. It literally just homegrown, sprouted, and then it merged, and I think got a little extra oomph from the line, and what it's done is created what I think is a straight line potential wind event where you get a large area that gets one strong gust of wind in one direction like this. See this right here, this purpley area that's just to the south of Rome to about Augusta and Kirkland. Heads up for the Floyd, Marcy, Route 49, Route 69, Route 12 corridor area. And eventually then heading into Herkimer County. But that's a very large population center there. Utica-Rome area right now is under the gun for very strong winds. Obviously, lightning, downpours, and we haven't mentioned it in a little while here, but flash flooding can certainly be something that you may not have first of mind if you're outside in your vehicle right now. Do not go under an underpass because that actually makes the winds go stronger. You're going to be like, really, Pete? Yeah. Think of it this way. If you've ever been in a city with big buildings, especially a lot of them, it can be very windy in between buildings. It's a physics thing. The air is forced to go into that tightened area, like between these two monitors. All that air has got to go faster through there. So going under an underpass is actually forcing the winds to go stronger. So if you're caught out in the storm in the middle of a field, God forbid, what you want to do is lie flat in a ditch area as low as possible, believe it or not. That's like last resort if you're in the middle of nowhere and you can't get to a safe structure like a house or something like that. So we still officially, technically have we have many severe thunderstorm warnings. We still have the tornado warning in this red polygon by Lee and Ansville. It's in effect for that particular storm, which, with all due respect, is not as strong as this one here. It just isn't. In fact, if anything, the Rome storm that I had been keying in on, this one, look, did you see that little spinny thing pop up? I'm going to tell you, if there's a new tornado warning, I have a feeling it's going to be for the Griffiths-Rome area or points east-northeast. Okay, that one looks much more suspect, much more dangerous than the one that's in Lee. That's not to say that there isn't damage there. I'm saying looking in the future now, looking forward, I'm worried about the Utica-Rome area. I'm worried about New Hartford. In this area, hey, if you've got friends and family, they might be not aware of this. Give them a heads up in this area. Basically, all of these towns and cities that you see right here, give them a heads up in New Hartford and the Utica area. You know what? They just put a tornado warning in effect. Not to say that I had a feeling, but I did. And a new tornado warning has now been issued right there. Yep, got it. Thank you, Josh. Is that a indicated one? Just wanted curious. Does it say radar indicated
Nope.
on it?
I was actually coming in to share some actual new damage reports from the Syracuse area and Onondaga County from the history of the storms. Whenever you have a minute.
Let me just get this. This literally just came out. Remember the storm in Rome? And I said I got concerned. They just put a tornado warning in effect for that.
Okay.
Smart move by the National Weather Service.
Sure.
Let me just show you the area for that. Okay, and this was an area that I called out before it even happened. Okay, this is a heavy population area. Rome right now has a tornado warning in effect. It is radar indicated, so there hasn't been an actual tornado cited by police or anything, but it doesn't matter. Treat it as if it is an actual tornado, and it's heading right now literally over Rome. Look at the couplet, Josh. Look at the couplet. It's right over Rome.
Yep.
Which means that you've got strong winds like this at Griffiths Air Force Base. You've got winds blowing this way.
I'm wondering if that part of the area is getting what we got in Syracuse, that EAS alert on their phones for folks out that way.
They absolutely do. If you have a tornado warning, the EAS is going off on your phone, and maybe you're watching us. Josh, tell us about the damage you felt, and I'm going to play around with the radar.
Yeah, so kind of going through it. So I know our managers are listening in tonight as well up in the control room here. So I want to give them the information as well as all of our neighbors and viewers, because we may be able to go out and capture some video and take that for our late newscast later on tonight. So first off, some flooding reported, Pete, back at 312, flooding over road under the city of Syracuse on I-81, so kind of the underpass where 81 and 690 cross paths there right in the city of Syracuse there. We have also had some trees down out in Geneva, out to our west. Back here locally, Plainville area, back at 207, had a tree down on Church Road, so Plainville area. Trees down on Church Road there. And then talking about power outages briefly, at least 800 outages in the Elbridge area, Pete, over 900 outages in Phoenix, 560 plus outages in the Fulton and Volney area, and 280 plus outages in the town of Schuylkill. Also some more reports out towards Baldwinsville right now, 211 p.m., tree down blocking an entire road. It's called Dinglehole Road and Church Road. So where those two roads cross right on Church Road, tree down blocking the roadway there. In North Syracuse, tree down over Bear Road and Harris Circle. So you know where Bear Road crosses Harris Circle, tree down in that area. Woodard, tree down at Buckley Road and Bear Road. So Buckley and Bear Road in the Woodard area, a tree is down blocking road there. Euclid, a tree down at Glacier Ridge Road, as well as River Road, so right where those two roads intersect as well. So Pete, we've had, unfortunately, tree damage, which we were talking about the whole afternoon here, right? Whether it be tornadic or straight line, but when the trees impact roads, of course, that impacts travel and makes things difficult to get around too, and you never know if there are any wires down nearby. I haven't seen reports of utility poles knocked over, but certainly there could be some that haven't been reported yet.
I don't know if you gave the total amount, but there's nearly 14,000 customers in Onondaga County without power. That's a lot. Almost 5,000 in Madison at this point and county. This storm, Josh, you can just step out of the way just to your side. You can actually stay in the key if you want. This is that couplet right. It's literally right over the city of Rome. This is bad news.
Yep.
Strong winds at the very least, and maybe even, it's definitely a rotating thunderstorm, Josh, right?
Yes, and we see the pinks here on the east side of the city. That's where we're having at least, 60, 70 mile per hour winds accelerating up that high. And wind gusts, of course, we know have Pete, F equals MA in physics, right? Force is mass times acceleration.
I was told there wasn't going to be any math on this test.
Acceleration of winds. We're not talking about a constant wind speed like this, right? That doesn't have any force to it.
76 mile per hour winds.
But when the wind accelerates and just hits objects like trees and property, windows, anything outside, it can abruptly move it out of the way and snap tree branches. Also looking at the indication here with our Doppler radar here, showing they'll spin potentially with this system. And again, I see the greens really juxtapositioned with the reds, and that's where we find the winds as you draw with the arrows here, really kind of like rubbing your hands in one way. They're kind of spinning and causing this really high impact storm in this area, whether it be rotating winds, which it looks evident, or on the outsides of it, maybe just some straight line wind damage.
Yeah. So let's recap again, just to give you everybody, because we have to stay on during a tornado warning. When you have that, I know you're missing some programming right now. We give tornado warnings, even if they're radar indicated, the full amount of attention because they are so dangerous. We are also covering the other storms, and we're trying to highlight the ones that have the strongest winds for you. Yes, there are many regular severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, but the worst of the storms are still are moving eastward. I will let you know that that there's going to be likely, this is the line of storms that's going to be the worst, okay? There might be some leftover showers, but this is not going to be something that gets repeated later today. Just again, zooming in, the original tornado warning is this one, but that storm is now either gone or moving further northeast. Just looking at velocities, that original storm that was in Taberg is now towards Western and West Branch. It's not that strong, but could need to be watched. And there's the same system. We had really been so close in the Rome area in the street level map, but we want to zoom out just a little bit because just to show you the loop here and who's next. Okay, who's next is going to be Floyd, Holland, Patton, and East Floyd and Trenton. And just giving you a little bit of a storm tracker here for you. This is when the storm, if it's the worst, we're talking about the worst part. Now, we know it's raining and stuff, but we're talking about if there's damage. Now, we know it's raining and stuff, but we're talking about if there's damaging wind and hail, there's the start time of it. In those places, we've mentioned a few of them. You see a few more on the screen right in through there. Good reminder that there could be flash flooding in this as well. And another reminder for you as well is that if you run into traffic lights that are out, treat them as a four-way stop. Even after the storm is over. We just mentioned how many customers are without power. That's just households, okay? We're not mentioning traffic lights, which I'm sure if you've got that many customers without power, and now we've got new storms moving into more metro areas like Utica, Rome, et cetera, that's going to cause, at the very least, some localized power outages, so we want you to treat that as such. Just in terms of the tornado warning and what you should do in case you haven't had, oh, by the way, Lewis County, I just saw, had a flash flood warning, which was smart because they just had extreme flooding of this past Friday, and they don't need much more rain to get back to a flooding situation there. I'll get to that flooding situation in a second. But first, that tornado warning, which is still in effect for Oneida County, stay calm and go to a basement of your building. If it's a huge building, you do not want to be in a huge room that has a roof that could get damaged and cave in. You want to be at the lowest level and an interior room. A small room is best with walls, as many walls dividing you between you and the house and the outside world, because those outside walls actually protect you. Of course, you want to have some communication. You want to protect your neck and head, and not shown here, also wear shoes. Let's say you go to the basement, everything's fine. You walk up this basement and then you notice, oh my gosh, my living room's got window broken everywhere and your shoes are on the other side of the room and you can't get to it. Well, now you're going to get injured. We don't want that. So always when you go for a tornado warning into a basement, or if it's a severe thunderstorm warning that's a destructive one or something like that, you want to make sure you're wearing shoes. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, watch until 6 p.m., but it's the warnings that are the most dangerous here. And up here is the same spot. You see this green, and then there's a green polygon. I know it's sort of out of our viewing area, but it's right on the edge. Lewis County, the same spots that got flash flooding, do you remember that on Friday? You're under a gun of another flash flood warning in effect. Notice, by the way, that the 81 corridor is done with severe thunderstorms. There are still a couple of stragglers, a couple of downpours and showers that might move through, but the danger zone of rain that has wind damage, that might have hail, that might have a spin up of a tornado, that has now ended for the 81 corridor. But it still continues for Oneida County, especially the tornado warning that's in effect until 4 o'clock. There's still technically a tornado warning in effect until 3:45 for this cell in Taberg, but I mean that's out of that. I'm going to guess that they're probably going to say to that warning, sayonara, see you later, because there's very little in the way of twisting there anymore. We still have that twist, and Josh, I'll get to you in a second. We still have that twist that went through Rome that's now in the Floyd area, still moving this way. And we still have these strong winds in Utica moving east. This is basically almost out of our viewing area right now. We can bring this back and just show everything. And while we are showing everything in a 1 hour loop, Josh, what do you got for us?
Yeah, it's got some more damage reports to pass along from the storms that moved through areas near Syracuse and points west. Earlier today, we were covering that tornado warning earlier initially for Cayuga County, Pete,
yep,
and then eventually into northern Onondaga County. So just a couple reports to pass along to anybody still watching here, whether it be on your phone, your TV set, your computer, or maybe both, or a couple of those. Camillus area back at 213, pole and wires down and fell on a car. That's in the town or village of Camillus. Marcellus area back at 211, tree down on Kelly Road. Kelly Road in Marcellus, a tree down. In Cicero area, around 2:30, a tree reported down on a car on Riley Road. Riley Road in Cicero, a tree down as well. And also trees down on Henry Clay Boulevard. Actually, trees down on wires on Henry Clay Boulevard back at 221. In the Lysander area, Pete, we had a report of tree on wires on Plainville Road. So Plainville Road in the Lysander area, trees on wires. And the last report here, tree down over Morgan Road near Route 31. So again, news folks listening in on this too, we got many spots where our photographers could go out. Certainly right now, reporter could go out and look at some of the damage here. We're talking Camillus, Marcellus, Cicero, Lysander, Liverpool area north of Syracuse. Many areas right now, unfortunately, have had some damage, Pete.
Yep. Want to show one more thing, and then maybe we can hand this off. It's close to where we're almost out of the viewing area here, but let me just save. Give me 1 second to reorganize this and then I'm going to take this off, okay, and then I'm going to put a different thing on. I'm looking at a different radar site. There was a correlation coefficient drop, meaning there was likely debris around and northeast of Rome. That is not good. Let me see if I can show it on this. I'm not sure I can, but I'm going to do my best to see if we can, just to see if we can show it in the loop. So let's see. It's not very easily seen here, but it's this area right here. This right here is showing us that there's been debris picked up by a possible tornado. It's this. I'm showing you right here. That looks like a debris ball, which would have been over Rome and picking up debris and then moving it northeast towards the Griffiths Air Force Base and Floyd and maybe Holland Patton.
Yeah, and in a related note with other damage in parts of upstate New York, this is, I got some information here, Pete, from
Sackett's Harbor.
This is from Suzanne Curtis on X or Twitter here. Yeah, Sackett's Harbor had a number of trees down in downtown Sackett's Harbor and considerable damages blocking roads. It doesn't even look like a road there.
You can't even road. Yeah. That was the first storm we had covered. Remember, we were very concerned when it was over Lake Ontario.
Yes.
We're like, wow, this could be a really bad one. Unfortunately, it is. Okay, so, and look, by the way, Josh, this is a velocity. It's right where the CC drop was.
Yep.
That's the tornado.
It's east of the Air Force Base there.
It went, I think it went right over Rome and right over the Air Force Base. It was it either touched down over the city of Rome or possibly to the east. Now, I should be careful, and I'm seeing something on radar. So that radar indicated we don't have visual confirmation. We don't have storm surveys, obviously, because it's ongoing.
Yep.
But it would not surprise me if we find out tomorrow or whenever that there was a tornado near the Rome, Floyd area moving east-northeast, I'm afraid.
So a couple of ETAs for some of the towns here in the path. We just drew the arrows here, Pete, going out to the east-northeast here. So right now the time is what, 3:38. So let's see, 3:40, Holland Patton, it's on your doorstep. Stittville, same thing. Steuben at 3:45. Trenton, Remsen, and Trenton Falls at 3:50. So that's where the storm is heading in that general direction. If you know anybody in that area, or if you're watching right now and you live in that area, safe space, using common sense, getting away from the windows. If you have a basement, you can still watch us on your phone in your basement. Hopefully your Wi-Fi still works there, but there have been reports of power outages in Syracuse, Pete, so it's possible that Wi-Fi might get knocked out for some folks, even if their phone switches over to cell service.
I got some important information. The National Weather Service has upgraded this to a observed tornado.
Okay.
It's a radar-confirmed tornado. And this is, by the way, were all over this before the tornado warning was even issued here, by the way. A confirmed radar-indicated tornado located right over Rome was moving east. This is the same one you had just been mentioning. So I'm glad we gave them a heads up before, and we're still giving them a heads up. I know this is maybe outside the viewing area now, but since we have a observed tornado on radar, Route 12 corridor is next. 274, you're very close to it right now between Steuben, not in Steuben County, the one in Oneida County, East Floyd, Holland, Patton, and then Remsen as well. You still kind of see a little bit of a debris here, by the way. It's an older scan, but you get the point here. It's this storm moving like this. I know it doesn't show up well in reflectivity, which is why we're showing the velocities so often, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you want me to zoom out a little bit?
Yeah, this gives a little more definition of where we're, and that right there, I mean, you can see that. It's huge swirl going from, was that Boonville up to the north?
It's like trying to bend out here.
Yeah. And
it may be a new thing trying to develop in here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's definitely got, like right here, just kind of drawing an S. Here's the S, right? and talking about winds coming in from maybe from the northeast here and coming in from the south here, and that spin right there, right along that edge between the green and the red is where we really try to focus in on. And yes, the radar or our graphics computer here is trying to indicate maybe some spin, but in general, it's pretty close to where we talk about Holland Patton, Trenton, South Trenton, East Floyd, these route names here, Route 12, north and south in the path of the storm. What is this, Route 365 heading northeast or southwest there through Holland Patton, north on 274 between Steuben, East Floyd, and Holland Patton Pete. So, you know, we're at street level. When we're at street level in a severe thunderstorm and a tornado warning, you know it's a serious storm here. And it's just something we have to track in real time because it's not just like a line of storms where it's clearly kind of sweeping through. We are tracking it as almost like a dot on the map, and where's that dot moving, right? Like this.
Yes, 365 corridor, big problems between Route 291, 274, and Route 12. That's where it is right now. It's likely, well, there's a new radar scan, so we can zoom out just a little bit. We get these every couple of minutes or two. It still looks very strong to me. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I'm thinking of at least wind speeds 60, 70 miles per hour because we still have these, the yellow lines here, we still have overlapping severe thunderstorm warnings in the area too, but with a tornado warning, usually a minimal EF0 when they confirm these, when they go out and survey them, Pete, isn't it usually somewhere between 65 and 85?
Yes.
We've been saying that the whole afternoon here with these couplets, these little areas of kind of spin going on. So 60, 70, maybe 80 miles an hour, that is really high winds, like higher than we average see in the summertime here in Syracuse from non-tornadic type of thunderstorms.
That's right. Just a quick thing to let you know. Let's bring up the outage map. We got about 20,000 customers just on National Grid alone without power. That doesn't count NYSEG, which covers a good chunk of the area. Now, you're going to just see a bunch of circles, and there's a big area that big. You can see all those areas over in Oneida County, too. That's just developing, by the way. Oneida County is up to 6,500 customers, but Onondaga's got a good 14,000 customers. Madison, about 5,000. Oswego, 2,000. But this is, unfortunately, that's what I was going to say. The radar is still showing, besides the twist, right around the Trenton area, which is, near Barneveld, 80-mile-per-hour winds in the storm.
Yeah, and that kind of wind.
Which is right here. It's right in this area.
And that's beyond just taking down a tree. That can take down a big, thick tree that's been there for over 100 years, possibly, or stripping the bark off trees. I've seen that happen with potentially tornadic storms, too, where the tree is left, but branches are ripped off, and the bark is just removed like skin off of the tree itself. So yes, in this area here, as you're drawing the arrows, Trenton, Russia out towards Ohio, you're kind of on the outer edge of where the warning kind of cuts off, but still, if it were to continue to the east, that would be in the path of it here. So again, with this storm, even if there's no actual tornado where you may particularly live, if you're living too far north or too far south of this, there is still high, straight line, general wind gusts happening with this storm. And, Pete, when they go out to survey these, probably tomorrow, I imagine, the National Weather Service will be pretty busy if they're out looking at all these areas that had warnings today. They're looking for, did the trees fall in one direction? Did they fall in 1, 2, 3, 4 different directions? And that's when they kind of display, hey, there was definitely some spin, and we're going to classify this as a tornado for sure beyond the visual,
Right, and what I was trying to show when I had all those lines is the storm, you were out of this studio area, but I had noticed a storm organizing here, and then it increased over Rome, and then we saw on a different radar scan something between Rome and Floyd being almost confirmed debris in the air, being lofted in the air.
Like larger pieces of debris that the radar can actually reflect back to the site to give us the data, right?
Exactly right, and right now it is about to exit Oneida County because it's the worst part's right on the border here, Remsen, the Route 12 corridor. That is likely going to be now moving into, as you mentioned before, Ohio and out of our viewing area for sure. But we will stay with this until the official tornado warning is done, which will be in 15 minutes, or if it is canceled earlier. It's right on the border here of Oneida and Herkimer County. And I have a really bad feeling that potentially there was some, at the very least, damage or maybe a tornado confirmed somewhere between Rome and Floyd because it was confirmed on radar and we were tracking it along with them.
And this is a little concerning too, where we have the actual rotation icon here, the storm track icon overlapping where you and I have been tracking this here on the velocity spin. So kind of overlapping here, we've got the intense rainfall. I also want to say that when we talk about the debris field, we're talking about that spot that Pete was just mentioning here. Pete, I would imagine that the debris to be large enough for this to see a kind of like a pixely area, we're talking probably like maybe sheds or like roofs, maybe, I'm kind of guessing now, for it to hit that hard where it could be, corn from a cornfield. It could just be a bunch of things as densely together or just larger things kind of nearby.
It's just the radar showing, okay, this thing that I'm seeing in the air doesn't look like the others.
Sure.
It's like the Sesame Street song. What doesn't look like some of these things don't look like the other. Sometimes, you got rain and hail. That's two of the most, or snow. But when it sees tree branches, debris, whether it's barns or a trampoline or whatever it is, it says, the radar sees that and goes, well, that looks different.
Yep.
And that's what we saw on radar, a different radar scan, not the velocity. It's called correlation coefficient.
Yeah, so it's always good. We have these tools to help our viewers and neighbors understand what's happening inside the storm and not just telling you, okay, tornado warning these areas, and then give you a time of arrival. We are really focusing in on the science here. We're talking about what's happening with thermodynamics in the atmosphere, basically just exchanging the heat, the winds. There's so much that goes involved here when these warnings are issued by the Weather Service, and for ourselves, Pete and I, to give the information on the air, because we're kind of almost like the translators, Pete, right? We forecast the weather, we do, we look at these, but it's specifically to one storm. While we don't decide whether we get on, we would like to all the time, but when the Weather Service issues the warnings and we don't issue them, we are reporting on where the warnings are. We want to make sure we're kind of giving you the right information, helping you make decisions. If you're in the path, do not brush the storm off. Do not think this can't hurt your area or damage your property, because we've already seen, I just listed off the reports, Pete, out in Syracuse. We've had a number of reports here with trees down on roads, not just trees down in the woods where no one lives. We're talking about trees impacting travel, too.
We may have a house collapse in Canastota.
Okay.
Let me just quickly look at that. That would make sense, because remember, we were calling out Canastota as a possibility here. Just see here. It's tough to see. I got an email from one of our producers saying that they're investigating a possibility of a house collapse on Barlow Street in Canastota.
Okay.
So we'll look into that. Of course, we're going to also make sure to keep you posted on this. Again, we're going to stay on the air in Oneida County or until that tornado warning is dropped. It is for the areas of far eastern Oneida County, and also, even though you technically don't have a tornado warning, you have a severe thunderstorm warning in Herkimer County. Heads up in that Grant, Russia, Hinckley, Ohio. I've actually never heard of this town. Hurricane. You ever heard of Hurricane, Herkimer County?
I have not.
I've been here for 30 years. I've never heard of that.
Yep. I know a lot on our maps, sometimes the names that pop up might just be, it could be an intersection of a couple roads. It could be possibly a village. But no, I have not heard of Hurricane, New York.
Now we have. You learn something new every day. If you don't learn, you're not a lifelong learner. It's good to learn new things, isn't it? Okay, Griffiths Air Force Base reported 79-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Confirmed.
That's above hurricane force, correct?
It sure is.
And wow, let's just call that, basically it's almost 80. It's around 80 miles an hour.
Which we were calling out.
Yes,
we were calling that
70 plus up to 80 miles an hour. And if this becomes a confirmed tornado by the Weather Service when they do their survey and they see that kind of high wind magnitude and gust, the gusts are the worst part, Pete. They have the force. I would imagine you're going to see considerable damage in this area because of that. No doubt.
I mean, it went right over the city.
Yes.
And right over Griffiths Air Force Base. So when it is safe, if you're watching this or know anybody from the Rome area, let us know if they're okay first. And then if everybody is okay, if you can get us pictures or videos, we would love to hear it, only if it's safe and only if everybody is not hurt or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what are the odds that we had the storm cluster move through the Syracuse airport and then the Griffiths Air Force Base airport as well, because we actually have, they have the stations already at the airports recording weather data. In this case, winds are a great way to indicate and see how high the wind gusts have been, along with, there are other areas in upstate New York, Pete, on our New York State Mesonet, where they have the suburbs that report winds too. We'll have to check those out as well as we go through this afternoon.
Yeah. Let's see here. Just making sure I'm not missing anything on Twitter here. Yeah, it is. It looks like we have a big problem in the Rome, Griffiths, Floyd area from that storm that went through that is now moving into Herkimer County. We are obviously going to continue to monitor and see how bad it was in terms of actually ground truth, meaning the unfortunate possibility that there was a lot of damage there. This is obviously a breaking news situation, so we are going to investigate once the conditions are safe, as you should also, if you're still under a warning, you should not be venturing outside. But if you do see any damage, if you do see anything, let us know, whether it's flash flooding, if it's wind damage, if you have pictures or videos of the winds or the tornado and you were able to do it safely, send it by chiming in. Josh.
I think we got a power outage map. We can pull that up, Pete, in our control room there. Thank you, Lane. 45,000 people now without power, and this is a map, it looks like, of which part of this area. Is this eastern sections? In the Rome area right now, yes. So considerable number of people without electricity, and that's why the beautiful thing is when I send out that push alert, Pete, so people can watch us with their phones, making sure they can see that also through X. If their power is knocked out, they can still have the phone to watch our live coverage. And, when I was younger and we'd get power outages, I always thought it was kind of funny how, like, oh, the news has got to get on and cover this. Well, they do, but sometimes people could not see our news or weather reports.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right? Remember back in the day, we'd have phones. Now these phones are great tools to have to follow along with all this information, so it's not just your block, it's not just your neighborhood. There are a number of neighborhoods that are being impacted by this weather today.
Yeah, and I can just, and I'm just doing too many things at once here, but there's a ton of outages in NYSEG that I can't estimate how many right now. There's a lot of customers without power. Okay, so let's recap again. We're going to bring this back to just a reset of where the warnings are in effect. It should be noted that the 81 corridor is fine now. We do not have any warnings in effect. There are some leftover pop-up showers and downpours, but not severe thunderstorms, not something that's going to cause damage. But further to the east, we still have heavy weather, and that is moving now towards the Mohawk Valley and eventually towards the Catskills and the Adirondacks. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So there you go. There's the storm heading out. I think we'll stay on for another 8 minutes here until the warning is allowed to discontinue. I'm just going to take the lightning is just incredible. Not surprising, by the way. There you go. This is still spinning right here. Still spinning roughly near Hinckley. That is still a likely, at least rotating thunderstorm moving towards Ohio. Ohio is next. And it's actually starting to twist a little bit to the left here. I'll take off all of this so you can kind of see. Yeah, it's kind of feels like it might want to go a little like that, just a little bit. We'll see. Either way, it is a dangerous situation that went through the Rome, Floyd area, possibly Holland, Patton, and Trenton, and now still a suspect, strong to severe situation heading into Herkimer County, right near the Route 365 corridor between Route 12 and Route 8. You do not want to be outside. You want to be in your safe spot. In fact, that's the thing we'll leave you with, because we are only going to stay on the air for a minute or two now, because now this is in the Herkimer County area, which is outside of our viewing area. There go the storms, the severe line threat, which will, by the way, continue to bring worse weather. Maybe you've got people or anybody in the Adirondacks in eastern New York and the Catskills. Give them a heads up, and eventually into Vermont area as well. And then I just want to show you again, for those of you, again, in Herkimer County next, even though there's not a tornado warning in effect, these are the things you should do. And then we'll go back to the radar. And one more thing from Josh, and I think we're going to sign off. Okay? What do you got?
Yeah, so I got a new report out in the Rome area, Pete. If we kind of zoom in back in that area as I give this report, because it's pretty destructive here. So in the Rome area, there is destruction of a church steeple, and it was ripped off the church roof. Okay, so a church steeple is made usually out of bricks and high stone. Also, a roof was ripped off of a grocery store in Rome. It doesn't give the name of which grocery store, but most grocery stores are flat, right? They're flat buildings. So I don't know the name of it or the size of that store, but I would imagine that for a roof to be ripped off like this, Pete, we're talking that 80-mile-per-hour wind speed.
At least.
Really trying to do a number there. Also out in Sylvan Beach, there's been a number of trees and wires down blocking roads in the Sylvan Beach area out to the west there on the east side of Oneida Lake.